From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, it's just the Tip-Sters with Melissa Morgan.
I volunteer as tribute.
If you've got a tip for Melissa, a weird thing you think you know but don't want to admit you know, a hot lead on a cold case, whether soap really is more effective than hand sanitizer, tell us about it by calling the Tipster hotline at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837, or send an email to jttipsters@gmail.com. You just might hear your tip on the podcast. Now here's your host, taking 20 seconds to wash your hands and an hour and a half to decide which Ugg boots to wear today, Melissa Morgan.
More cowbell. Welcome to the new world, fuckers. I volunteer as tribute. Just take me out. I don't care. I'll go bring down a hawk, and you guys can eat it, and then just let me die quietly in the woods.
Now stop.
All right,
please. We're all just going stir crazy.
A little bit.
Everybody's lost their mind,
and we're so blessed. We have this great house with so many different things. Like, there's 874 books I could be reading right now on true crime.
Books.
What's a book? I forgot who you are. Yeah, there's 874 books I could be reading that you would observe me and wonder what that square thing is in my hand.
We've got some things on shelves here that look like, I don't know, books, I guess.
Yeah, we do. Actually, in my podcast room, I have a tremendous amount, and then in our master bedroom, I have a secret hidden. It's a mirror on one side. It's a very beautiful dark cherry wood thing. It's meant for your bathroom to put on the opposite side to put towels and stuff.
I forgot about that. I forgot about that thing.
Cost Plus World Market with when my BFF Angela and her husband Jason were in town, and I was like, I have to have this. It was on sale. It was pretty cheap. And you spin it around. It's on a little platform. You spin it around, and in the back there's 1,000 books on yoga.
Pretend you live in a haunted mansion and the other side is a different room.
I feel so bad for Lorraine, the host of Big Feelings, who had a trip to Disneyland with her son prepared for April, and she just got her what do you call that 1 year pass thing?
Oh, she got the pass. Oh.
Yeah, the yearly thing. I know,
man.
And it's not something. It's not just like pocket change that Lorraine had hanging around. I mean, she, saved up for this and worked her butt off, and then, the world comes to an end. But she could come to our haunted mansion and look at my yoga books.
I'm just not sure that's
It might scare her. It might be, some people are scared by yoga.
I'm scared by yoga.
But you're weird.
Okay.
You're weirder. What I love is when people say, oh, you teach yoga, does Mark practice yoga? And I'm like, no.
Well, let me just explain.
Yeah.
I appreciate yoga.
You do.
I support your yoga practice.
You do.
More than anything else.
You do.
I love it. I see what benefits it has. Not interested in doing it.
Yeah, I know. The sweetest thing is when I had overheard you tell people what a great teacher I am. I'm like, how the fuck does he know he's never taken one of my classes? I could be in there torturing people.
I talk to your students,
right,
and I see them come out of your class with this glow and how much. I mean, they love you and your class.
Yeah, but that's about them. They bring that to the practice, and I suggest poses and give them a space to practice, and it's more about them than me.
See what I deal with here, folks? She will not take any credit for anything.
Oh, are you kidding? I take credit for shit I have not done, other people have done. I like to absolutely take credit for stuff that I haven't done. I'm a spinner. I can't remember the theme song from the
But I do really love your peaches want to shake your tree.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a midnight yoga. I don't know can't remember what the words are because I'm so tired right now. I can't even. One of the things I was just sitting up last night.
Woo sound. That would be.
Oh my God! Yes, that would be awesome. Why do you not have that ready?
I don't know.
You're a bad producer.
I'm a bad producer. I agree.
So, as we stumble through this new world where I have volunteered as tribute, just end it quickly. We would like to showcase some of our friends, some friends of the podcast. And we would like to showcase you. So we have some some friends who own small businesses that their lives have been upended, as all of our lives have, I'm going to guess. I mean, remarkably bad in California, and it's probably really bad wherever people are, in different levels of this is really bad. I'm not saying California is the epicenter. I think the United States is now the epicenter, but it's uncomfortable in California. And like I said, it still feels so selfish to say anything because we have so many amazing things at our fingertips. If this had happened, in the 70s, you would have just heard a gunshot in my backyard and I didn't have a gun. But yeah, we have so many things to be grateful for that we can do to occupy our minds. I'm walking Siren Marie Morgan Humphreys twice a day. That's not a child, that's a dog. And that's, a lot of what I do outside, and it's not fun. And my neighbors are being so amazing and walking. I started to say dodging around me, like, I don't appear to be ill, but walking a very, very safe distance. And yeah, let's hope this.
Yeah. The other day when we had about a 20-minute power failure. And of course, it turns out everybody was panicking, but normally I would go next door, knock on the door, and say, "Hey, is your power out?" Nobody did, but here's the thing. Like 4 or 5 of our neighbors on our cul-de-sac all did the same thing I did. They walked out on their front lawn and started yelling at each other across the street. "Hey, is your power out?" "Yeah, it's out." "Oh, okay, thanks."
This was what was so funny. It happened when I was walking Siren. So I'm walking Siren and I see people on an adjoining street out at the end of their driveways like, "Power's out. I don't know when's coming back on. Is yours out?" And I'm like, oh no. Right. Mark Humphreys is working from home. He's going to kill people.
It's not just me, baby.
No, I know.
I mean, everybody was freaking out.
But here's what you have to know what I saw. You have to hear my perspective. As I turned the corner onto our creepy little cul-de-sac, there's Mark Humphreys standing in the middle of the cul-de-sac yelling into his iPhone. He has it on speakerphone. Our neighbor Holly is at the end of her driveway in her jammies, and Mark is yelling. And I was like, "Are you actually yelling at the electric company?" And you were like, "Yes." It was like automated.
It was just voice commands to the...
You have no idea how loud you are. Can I just say that? So I'm sure it worked really well, you yelling into your iPhone at the electric company, but it came back on in 20 minutes and you were able. I was so worried you had been thrown off of like one of your important conference calls.
Yeah, I was very close to having a very important video. Everything is on video conference now.
Right.
And everybody's doing video conferences.
Which I have to wax your eyebrows. You're starting to look like Albert Einstein.
Oh, you should see some of the people on. I mean, that's the thing. We're all losing. We're like the first couple of video conferences I was on, the first couple of days.
You dressed nicely.
Everybody. One was a board meeting, so everybody kind of dressed nicely for that. But even the other ones, people were like, they were clean. The men were clean shaven.
Right.
The women were wearing a little makeup. But like the last couple of working days this last week, I go on to these video conferences and everybody's just fuck it. They're wearing T-shirts, baseball caps. They're not. The men aren't shaven.
I have to say, I've walked in accidentally to a couple, and I didn't recognize anyone on your screen.
Right.
So I don't know who those people were. They just have given up.
They just gave up. I mean,
it's pretty. Yeah. So I don't want you to give up, but what I want you to do is remember the things that make our country what it is and make it move in the way it moves. And it's something I have taken for granted so many times, and I just don't want to do that ever again after this experience. But small businesses are what keeps this world going in my mind. So we want to highlight a few small businesses every episode until this is over and maybe after. So if you have a small business you want us to mention, if your circumstances have changed, and I will explain how these 3 businesses, how their business model has to have been adapted in these times, please feel free to email us at jttipsters@gmail.com. You can call us at 832-847-7837. And while those email and address our email addresses and phone number are for tips for cases, which we still absolutely want. And this week's episode came to us from a fantastic, concerned tipster, and it's a beautiful, heartbreaking story. Please feel free to let us know about your business, your small business, how you've been impacted, and what we can do to help. So the businesses I want to highlight this week are our sponsor from last year, Jennifer, and her business cleanspa.com, and it's KLEANSPA.com. And I placed an order last week from Jennifer's online site because I feel like I'm covered in about 5 layers of ick. I just feel like the world is very icky. And she has these amazing scrubs and polishes that you can use in the shower. Basically, you can create your own scent. She has a lot of scents that are already formulated that you can choose from. That I'm going to tell you, there isn't a clinker in the bunch. I just love everything she makes.
They make you smell really good.
Yeah, that's her catchphrase is prepare to smell delicious. And you do. I was just so happy when I got to scrub, all of the shit off me in the shower, and Jennifer's products make that, an easy, lovely experience. And our friend Debbie had a bunch of festivals and fairs booked for the spring for her business. She makes the most fantastic outfits for American Girl dolls. So if you have a daughter, a niece, a friend who has American Girl dolls, and you want them to have something unique, tailored just for them, maybe something really even personalized, you have to see Debbie's collection. So her site is materialgirldollshop.com altogether. And we are going to leave all of these in the show notes so that you can find them. You can just click on them from our show notes. And they're not paying for any advertising. This is just something we want to do because the world is so uncomfortable right now. And we want our friends who have such great items and products that can make even a crappy time like this feel better. We want them to be highlighted. So I know that Debbie's business is impacted, and I know Jennifer, who has a storefront that is unable to be opened in California right now because it isn't considered an essential, service. So her online store is all she has right now, and Debbie's, festivals and fairs have been canceled because no one can get together in a group. So materialgirldollshop.com, and I'm telling you, the most amazing outfits. So creative and unique and different. Your American Girl doll, or your daughters, or your nieces, or your nephews, or whoever has an American Girl doll that.
What about mine?
Or Mark's American Girl doll, which he doesn't have one, but he likes to think he does. If you need an outfit, Debbie is your girl. I mean, she's just so creative. You can also find all of these on their social media, which I can let you know that too. And the last business we want to highlight is, of course, our fantastic friend Shelly, who has southerngirlcreations.net. Now, she has made beautiful tumblers for us. She makes, great shirts and something called sublimation. So it looks like it's printed, and it won't wear out or fade with washes. I don't know how it's done, but I know it's done with like a Cricut, like that I have, that I make just nasty T-shirts that say "so fucking over it." Hi, Siren. We must have a guest. Siren is notifying us. She's better than a Ring video doorbell. If she was able to capture video for
wow, she'd be perfect. we ought to like install some sort of cyber chip, of cyber chip into one of her eyeballs.
Yeah, let's cyborg our dog up. That's what I think we want to do. So southerngirlcreations.net is Shelly's website, and she is making for us a fantastic Just the Tip-Sters 20-ounce metallic stainless steel tumbler with our logo on one side and crime scene tape on the other. And she's working on that, and it will be ready for the end of the contest. And the contest is, drum roll, or thumbs on my desk.
That's good.
Hey, thank you. You have until midnight on Friday, April 10th, which is Good Friday, to email or call or send us something on social media and suggest a case that we should cover. So all of the entries are going into a drawing, and one winner will get the 20-ounce tumbler with our logo and crime scene tape and a $25 Ulta gift card. Now, you can use that online. You can save it until, stores are available to be used again, or you can use it online and, get some soap to wash your hands 27 times in a day, or whatever you want, or, let's say you've let your eyebrows go and you can get one of those flawless things. I was talking to you, Mark. And
oh boy.
Yeah. So
You're
there's
gonna have
that.
to show me what this is.
I don't even want to talk about it. So anyway,
Okay.
I need to say thank you to Simba and Grana Tam for their reviews this week. They were really kind. I really liked that Simba, her title, I'm going to say her, I don't know if Simba's a girl or a boy. Simba left a title that says, I can't think of a title. That made me laugh really hard. And you don't have to write a large review, as Simba just had one sentence, but it was a priceless sentence that I'm going to call her, she loves the podcast. And Grana Tam is hilarious and said that if we had managed to corner the market on some toilet paper, to let her know. And we have plenty now, hopefully, fingers crossed. I just happened to stumble into a Sam's Club, and they threw some in my cart, and I left.
That
and
was totally. We should have bought a lottery ticket that day. No. The listeners should know that you went there. You'd given up, and you just went.
Did.
You went to Sam's Club for something, just other stuff.
I didn't even remember what I went. I was so flabbergasted when I got toilet paper. I left because I didn't get what I was supposed to get.
You all of a sudden you saw people with toilet paper in their shopping carts, and you asked somebody.
I said, "Where did you get that?" And they pointed me to the back, and I ran to the back. And it was a great assembly line. I do have to say Sam's Club stepped up when they get supplies in, which, people in the area are saying, oh, shelves are being restocked. I'm like, I'm sure they are, with stuff like, baker's yeast or something you don't really, want that much. But, a big package of figs, it'll go bad in a minute. But we were looking for TP for 10 days. 10 days, and we weren't out, but we were getting close. So yeah, it was just I should have got a lottery ticket, but that's okay. Well, we've won the lottery. We have each other, right, Mark?
That's awfully romantic.
It's something. So this was sent to us from beautiful tipster Laura, who seemed to think there wasn't a lot of information on the case, and I can't tell if it's I'm a little stymied by names. And maybe she couldn't find information, because I found a lot of information about the case, and a lot of it's repetitive, but it's still so fascinating. And there are 2 podcasts who have covered it. One is a crime reporter, Angeline Hartman, with 2 N's. I guess she is from a Fox channel in Atlanta and DeKalb County, which is where this took place. And the other is Laura Norton's podcast, The Fall Line. Specifically about cases involving the state of Georgia. I don't like the name they've given the boy, because he doesn't look like this. And it would be fascinating if we ever find out who he is and that's his name. But I do understand why. I had this discussion with Todd Matthews over the Tent Girl. Anything's better than Jane Doe number 574 or John Doe number 671. Anything's better than that. But the names are, interesting. I never liked Tent Girl, but it stuck, and it became the thing you knew you could find information on her under that name. I have issues with names of found people who are unidentified, but he was found on Clifton Springs Road at a DeKalb County cemetery, and he was known for a small period of time as Clifton John Doe, which I understand, but he was a beautiful little boy, a beautiful little African American child. Typically, they think between 5 and 7, and now they've expanded the parameters a little bit. Anywhere as young as 4, and anywhere as old as maybe 8. 9 at the outside. There were several people who were missing a young man in their family or in their community, and they were 11 and 12. They turned out to not be this young man. And I have really, it's rare to see an organization like the DeKalb County Sheriff's Department, the DeKalb County Coroner's Office, the medical examiner, go out of their way to really ask for the public's help. And that's one of the things that made me want to cover the case after Laura suggested it. I was unaware of it. I had not heard about it, and I kept getting it confused with a case in Chicago. But it turns out he may have traveled, but not from Chicago. He may have lived anywhere from Atlanta, Georgia to northern Florida. And when you're young and you don't have the choice, maybe that's what happened, is that he was moved, and maybe that's part of the confusion, is someone may not have thought about someone across state lines. It's all so murky, but yet the treatment of this young boy's remains is beautiful. They kept trying to find a name for him. The detectives were not going to call him Clifton John Doe, so they came up with Dennis, sort of reminiscent of Dennis the Menace. So he's Dennis Doe. You can find a lot of information about him under Dennis Doe and the 2 podcasts I mentioned. Angeline Hartman is a crime reporter and has been in and around that part of the country for 20 years. And she has the best of intentions. The podcast is 6 episodes, and it probably could have been 3 or 2 really well-packed ones. But that's what I think sometimes people want to do, is stretch a story out and keep you coming back. And I understand that. And what she wanted to do was highlight this on the 20th anniversary of Dennis Doe being found. And that was in 2019. So he was found February 26th of 1999. And he was found by an employee of a cemetery on Clifton Springs Road. He was preparing a grave for a new burial in February. And he saw remains sort of jutting out of the ground. And not that the child had been buried, but when you're talking about a small child and you see like some clothing on the ground, you think, oh, it's just clothes. And then he got closer and saw bones and a skull and shoes and socks. And that's the thing about Dennis Doe. He was not a kid who was unthought of, uncared for, abandoned. I don't know how they can say this sentence, but it has been said by every investigative agency, including the FBI, that this child was gently placed at the edge of the cemetery in a wood line. Gently placed and beyond well cared for. If he's on the lower end of 4 or 5, great bones, great teeth, clean, nice clothing. And the clothing is a kind of a big deal, especially if you're a mom. And I'm not a mom, I don't have kids, but the details that some of the investigators that are female, someone who works in the medical examiner's office, the details she pointed out made me cry. They're beautiful. So this young boy was found wearing a pair of red jeans and a blue plaid hoodie. Now, the body of the hoodie was plaid, and the arms and the hood were blue, like a fleece or thermal material. So the body of the hoodie is a blue plaid, and the arms and the hood are a solid blue thermal that are, warm. He was dressed warm for the time that he could have been there. They believe he was there anywhere from 3 to 6 months. So he had been placed in the fall of the previous year of 1998 and found in February, at the end of February of 1999. He had on not just really cute Timberland boots, which a little boy in Timberland boots just...
Oh, those are expensive too.
And that's a really good point, Producer Mark. And these were specific Timberland boots, which I'll get to, which makes it even a smaller number of people who would have had these. He had socks on, which little boys tend to not remember socks. So someone dressed him. And the Timberland boots were tied in double knots, which, again, a mother who worked at the medical examiner's office in DeKalb County mentioned she had a son. She had one son. And little boys don't care if their laces are undone, but moms do, so you don't trip. So somebody, probably a parent, tied his little Timberland boots in double knots so he didn't trip. Now, here's the thing that producer Mark mentioned. In 1999, Timberland boots for kids were a special thing that came out in Atlanta as a test market.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that should help investigators.
One would think. Extremely rare. The only thing I can equate it to, and it sounds ridiculous and shallow, but I always felt so grateful. Diet Mountain Dew was test marketed by PepsiCo in Cincinnati, in the Cincinnati area. So I had access to Diet Mountain Dew in the 90s before it became a national drink. And now, of course, it's, everyone's favorite swill.
People are fighting over it. In
Probably.
Checkouts. There's a video of some people in...
Oh, that's right. Oh, my God. It was in Kentucky. You're right.
It was in Kentucky, yeah.
That just kills me. Yeah. Cartons and cases of Diet Mountain Dew. So even I'm not that person. I could be, but it's not me. But
you used to carry it in your trunk. You've
Shut the
told the
fuck
story
up.
about how you put a fire out with
did.
it once.
See, you shut the fuck up right now. That was many years ago.
It's documented. It's been on the
God damn
podcast.
it. I'm
you
not
cannot
a hoarder.
escape your past.
I am not I'm a better person now. We change. Did you hear nothing in the episode last week with John from Pause for Life? We all deserve a second chance.
All right.
I am not a Diet Mountain Dew hoarder anymore.
But it did save your life because you...
Kind of.
Yeah.
Or at least it saved the Monte Carlo that my grandma gave me.
Right.
Where the light came out and set the carpet on fire in the back. Anyway, so these adorable little boy Timberland boots were a specialty item that had come out in July of 1998. So just, 8-9 months earlier, they were, new. And he had, let's say they came out in July and something happened to him in October or November. He'd only had them a few months. And the medical examiner, even though he had laid out in the elements for anywhere from 3 to 6 months, the medical examiner said, these are in really great shape. These boots, the clothing is in really great shape. And another thing that just was so beautiful and yet a little bit heartbreaking is that a female medical examiner went to, because the clothing, had some wear and tear from the elements, they wanted to show the clothing because it was unique in a press conference. And one of the female medical examiners went to a flea market and found a plaid like the hoodie and took it home and made the sleeves and the hood. She dyed thermal material to the color of blue and sewed it together and made a little hoodie. She found a pair of red jeans in the tiny little person's size at a thrift store. And then they bought a new pair of the Timberland boots in his size and used them. They sort of, it was, I'm going to say this, and I don't want it to sound disrespectful, because what they were doing was trying so hard. And here it is, 1999, and they're doing the best that they can with what they have and trying to make, things easy to understand. They put his skull on top of a baby skeleton, a fake baby skeleton, and then put the clothing on the skeleton. And I know what they were trying to do was be helpful, but at the time, I can't imagine seeing, apparently everyone was a little taken aback by that, but they had worked so hard to show the details that someone could potentially,
Yeah, but it's ghoulish.
It is. Yeah. It broke my heart, but then they kind of backstepped and did something even better. They made a clay sculpture of what he may have looked like based on his skull. So that the next time they showed the details of him, of what he was wearing, it was a little easier to see. They even brought someone in who was a forensic artist from the Oklahoma Bureau of Investigation. So all the way from Oklahoma to Atlanta, Georgia, to create something they think looks like Dennis Doe. And he's a beautiful little boy who was, cared for, who was clean, who was well dressed, who had good teeth and good bones, and zero method of death. Can't find.
They can't figure it out at all.
So part of the theory is that something happened and he died, and someone, just snapped and laid him on the border of the cemetery. The only thing found in his system was Dramamine and children's Tylenol.
So he may have had a cold or something.
Yes, and maybe it was bigger than they thought. Maybe it became pneumonia. Maybe he was had a compromised immune system. But those things can't be usually detected from bones that are left. That's more like the soft tissue that would have to have been examined.
Right.
So it's not Mark and I had an amazing experience by getting to tour the LA County Sheriff's Department Homicide Bureau. And we spoke with the head artist, and she has 2 forensic artists working under her. And she was very proud, even though she is extremely humble and doesn't like to tout her own accomplishments, but very proud of Trinity Love Jones. And I just can't help but draw a comparison. Trinity was 9, but very, very small. She was found in a suitcase on a hill, on a grassy hill, not far from where we live. As far as the crow flies, it's Arcadia, but that's actually where we got married, where producer Mark and I got married. She was found in a suitcase, and this artist at the LA County Sheriff's Department was so respectful. The little girl's body had eliminated what was in her body onto her little heart-shaped pajama bottoms. And the artist was like, I will not go to the medical examiner's office until you clean her up. If you take her clothing and put it to the side, I can draw what the clothing looks like without being soiled, but I don't want to look at her in that state. And it was such a beautiful thing. Here she is drawing this little girl so that she could be identified. And it, turns out her evil parents had, beaten her and put her in a suitcase. She was malnourished, underfed, very small for her age, put her in a suitcase and left her on the side of the road. It was just, it's heartbreaking. But the people that fight for the missing and unidentified are just, they mean the world to me and to anyone who's missing someone. These people are, in my mind, heroes, and they're just going about their day. They think of themselves as artists or scientists, and they're remarkable. So the fact that this medical examiner went to such great lengths to recreate his outfit so that it maybe could be identified, very much reminiscent of Frank Bender, who found, the exact glasses he thought John List would be wearing at a thrift shop, and he was right. So I know the artist at the LA County Sheriff's Office didn't like me saying, you're psychic, you're using your intention, you set the intention, your intuition is showing you what someone looks like even after death. And she was like, oh, don't go there. And I was like, okay, but I can't help it. These people are artists.
They are. They're artists and scientists at the same time.
They are, but I feel like they have to use their intuition also to try. When you have not much to work with and it's not in good shape, and you know enough about, archaeology, the shape of the bones, the ethnicity, how the eyes are placed, to create something that when you find out who it is and there's a picture of them from the living, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, I would have known that person anywhere. Those people are just more than artists to me. It's a gift that I wish I had. I can't, draw a stick figure very well. So those people are true heroes to me. So this young boy, everyone is stumped. Why hasn't someone called in? They put out the word, look, if something, we know he's cared for. We know he was loved. If something happened, you won't be held responsible. even if it's not your child or your family member, if someone from your neighborhood went missing, please let us know. You won't get in trouble. No one's going to be in trouble. We just want to know who Dennis Doe is. We want to know who this little boy is. He was obviously loved. This is not a bad situation. It's just an odd situation.
It's very odd. It seems to me that if the boots that he was wearing were so rare, that the police should have been able to find out who in the Atlanta area bought those boots.
Well, it's 1999. I don't know how good the records were kept, but let me tell you that they tried really hard and other ways that they had. Perhaps somebody came in and bought the boots and paid cash. You may not be able to trace, in 1999, do shoe stores, especially for kids, have cameras? Probably not.
Not as much as you find today.
Right. But let me tell you what did happen. So 8 months after Dennis Doe was found, in October of 1999, there was a phone call received to the DeKalb County Sheriff's Department from a woman who identifies herself as Dawn Anderson. And she is upset, but not crying or unintelligible. And she is saying, I know this. She didn't say I saw on television, I saw a flyer. She said, I know this little boy. I need to talk to somebody about this little boy found near the cemetery in DeKalb County. I know who he is. His name is Cabell Brown. Now, a couple of things are uncomfortable about that. They still say that is the best piece of information. I don't know that that's true. I think it's going to be something, simple and in the future, like potentially genetic genealogy. So the woman who made the phone call, who identified herself as Dawn Anderson, wanted to tell someone and get the information out, said that he lived in northern Florida, and she was on a phone that they ended up tracing to Melbourne, Florida, on the campus of the Florida Institute of Technology. Now, it's 75 miles southeast of Orlando, and when they got there, when the DeKalb County Sheriff's Department gets there, when they trace the call, that they can do in 1999, they find it's an unusual phone. Now, what had happened when the detective who'd gotten the call, it was transferred from dispatch, and he was the person in charge of Dennis Doe's case. And he said, the background noise was so loud, I couldn't understand what she said. I was having a hard time, and it wasn't because she was crying and unintelligible. It was that there was this background noise that was overwhelming, very loud street noise. And he said, hold on, I'm going to transfer you to a better phone, and hopefully I can hear you. And of course, we don't know what happened, whether the transfer didn't work or she hung up. But when he went to get her again, she was gone. So they go and they find this phone. They find the phone number that the call came from. And it is the oddest thing I can imagine. I went to college in the 80s, and I've never seen anything like this, but perhaps things are different in Florida or different on educational campuses. It was a blue public telephone. And instead of a regular phone, it was a speaker box and a handset.
That's interesting.
Very different.
Where was it located?
On the campus near the quad, near the cafeteria and student union of the Florida Institute of Technology in Melbourne.
Okay.
Right. It overlooked a very large area, and that was why the detective thought that maybe all of the background sounds contributed to him.
Oh, sure. They were all amplified.
Yeah, because it was a blue box, like a blue box.
Speakerphone.
Yeah, that she would talk into, and all she had was a handset that, she could talk to, but he couldn't, it was like the handset was for her to hear, and for her to talk, she had to talk into the box, and everyone else.
That's bizarre.
It's very unique. It's just a unique phone. So they tracked down two Dawn Andersons in the area. One they found, and one was in the wind. The one they found was with her boyfriend and denied having gone to the Florida Institute of Technology, didn't know anything about the young boy, was just, flummoxed, like, why? I have no idea why you're talking to me. No, I never made that call. She admitted that she had gone to another community college that happened to be across the street from the Florida Institute of Technology. They were so close, like sister campuses, that they shared library cards. So while there was your library card was usable at either campus, just to let you know how close they were.
Yeah, sister campuses, really.
Exactly. So the Florida Institute of Technology had no one, enrolled named Dawn Anderson. She admitted she had gone to that other community college. Now, here's the thing that the officers found odd, and I agree with them, but I would probably want the information if somebody showed up at my door. She asked for their cards and a way to contact them, and they left with the feeling that she knew more than she was saying and maybe didn't want to say anything in front of her boyfriend. That if it really didn't ring a bell with her, if none of this made sense to her, why would she need their contact information? I kind of get that, but I can tell you the only time I've come home and there was a business card from a police officer in our front door was when we lived in Van Nuys, and a woman 2 doors down had died in her home, and of natural causes. She was elderly and had a person who rented like her back guest house, a young man, and he had, I think after several days, had realized I can't get a hold of her, so he called for a welfare check, and she had died on the floor in our living room. And the thing that was more interesting to me is that 1-800-AUTOPSY showed up, and it's a business, a private company that, if you are not happy with what you think would be the county autopsy, if you think there's something else going on, they do a private autopsy for you. But they also do crime scene cleanup and hazmat kind of duty. So that was what I was like, this is a fascinating business. Do you remember, Producer Mark, you got me a 1-800-AUTOPSY tank for my 40th birthday? I
do, and I remember that. I remember that incident, and somebody told us that it was quite a messy scene.
Well, she had been there for about a week. And
in very hot weather.
It was very and she was she was older. Everything was closed up, and basically she left an outline on her hardwood floor. She had, disintegrated.
And I think some of it had gone through the floor,
Yep.
And it was pretty bad.
Down through the flooring, absolutely. I didn't want to mention all the fun stuff. Thanks so much, Producer Mark. But that's the only time I have had a police officer's card in my front door. Hopefully never again. But I was, I was like, what did I, and me, I am, guilty for things I have not done and things other people have not done. And I call him like, what did I do? What do you want? And he's like, oh, no. And there was, 2 doors down, there was a death investigation, and we think it's, natural causes, but, the family wanted us to. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, I didn't know anything about her. So I was a really bad witness, but yeah, and much more fascinated by 1-800-AUTOPSY. That's another company we can tout. I don't know if their work has been, probably not, because they wear hazmat suits. They're probably okay.
I think they're fine.
Yeah. But yeah, that was an interesting thing. So
yeah, but you would have, the point is, you would have been, if they, you call them right away, like most people would do, right?
Well, they got her at home, and she was with her boyfriend, and that's why they think she may have been hampered in her answers. They still, to this day, 20 years later, are saying, we think that Dawn Anderson knows more than she said. I don't know why she would have made the call from a public phone thinking she couldn't be found, and then, was sort of found. And even though she said her name, or, maybe a fake name, and then not wanted to speak to them. So that's the part that hangs me up. If I were calling in a tip and I'm upset, I might slip and say my name, or if I want to keep myself anonymous, I might, oh yeah, my name's Don Smith. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm speculating here as much as they did. So to even keep things closer to the vest and really try and find out the correct identity of this beautiful boy, they didn't even release Don Anderson's name until just recently. They kept that under wraps as someone, who may have known that piece of information that could solve it. But since it's not really a murder case, it's a child abandonment case. It could have been, a young boy who died from natural causes, or potentially his family didn't want a traditional funeral, or didn't, ascribe, maybe they, even though he had children's Tylenol and Dramamine in his system, maybe they didn't ascribe to the mores of the time,
Maybe.
It's absolutely, heartbreaking. He was very loved and cared for. So
I have a question, though.
Sure.
What about, didn't you say she left a name?
Yes.
What did they do about that name?
Well, thank you for saying that, Producer Mark. Cabell Brown, because of the background noise, they wondered if it was Caleb. They switched the letters around. They switched the spelling around. Cabell, Cabel, Cabell, Kabel, Caleb. They really tried every way they could to make it work. They settled on Cabell, depending on what source you're reading from, Cabel, or some sources say Cabell. But they, I think they kind of gave up on the Caleb part, but they believe, that what she was trying to say was Cabell Brown, and she had said that his family visited Florida on a regular basis, and then the call, was disconnected. So we don't know. I mean, they call him Dennis Doe.
Yeah, and they never found any registered name under Cabell Brown.
Nothing.
No birth certificate. No,
nope.
Nothing.
They checked. You won't even believe. I mean, they really have done an amazing job from trying to figure out his age. Any male, African-American male born in DeKalb County from 1990 to 1995. That is 1 million males, African-American males.
Wow.
They narrowed it down using school records, the DMV, tax records, social media, to 10,000 probables. And this, detective is like, that's not unsolvable. 10,000, young men born in that age range, that's not unsolvable. I mean, I know they
wouldn't seem so.
They've really tried. I promise you, they've really tried. And they've gotten interesting tips over the years. There was a young boy missing from Texas named Dorian. It turns out he was ruled out. There was another young boy from Georgia named Tavis. It turns out he was ruled out. One of the more interesting tips was from a woman whose mother was an educator and an administrative person at an elementary school, and she taught second grade. And there was a young boy who just disappeared from her class in 1998, and he had lived with relatives. And she had the police, she has reported this numerous times over the years, just saying, you need to find him. And it turns out they probably did. But her first time of reporting it to the police, they showed up at her house and they were in a unmarked car. So she drove them around the neighborhood and then took them to the house where she believed he had lived with relatives. And a car was in the driveway that matched the description of a car that was seen potentially in the area of the cemetery. So the police officers were like, oh my God. So she had found out that the young boy that is missing from her class had been taken out of school and put in a detention center. And she said, that's never sat right with me. I don't believe a second grader goes to a detention center. And she said he was well-dressed, had Timberland boots, was, if I said to sit down, he'd stand up. Maybe he had a little bit of the devil in him, but he wasn't, detention center material. And she is convinced that no one left that school without her knowing, because if anyone transferred in or out, it was her job to keep the records as part of the administrative part of her job, even though she also was a second grade teacher. But they believe they have found that young man, and he had a storied life and had moved to Canada and had played 1 year in professional sports and now is in jail.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she still is not quite sure. She thinks that's him. She's getting older now. She's told her daughter, I want you to keep looking for this young man. So I know they have worked really hard. I know, because he, is somebody's baby. He's somebody's baby. If his parents aren't around, he's somebody's sibling. He's, somebody's cousin. He's somebody's, neighbor. He's somebody. Dennis Doe is somebody. And I've never seen agencies ask for more help than in this case. They're usually not that open, and they must just be at the end of their ropes. If now it's 21 years since Dennis Doe was found, at the edge of the cemetery in a wood line, laid out gently, not thrown, not discarded, but laid gently because he, may not have been alive, or maybe his parents thought he wasn't going to make it. Whatever was going on, we don't know. But if you have any knowledge of this, if you have any inkling, they're begging people to call them. If you heard any stories, if you were in the area in the 90s and the 2000s, if you knew of a beautiful young boy somewhere between the ages of 4 and 8, probably closer to 5 and 7, who was 3 feet 10 inches tall to 4 feet 2 inches tall, somewhere between 45 and 50 pounds, who had an adorable outfit and special Timberland boots. If you know anything, I'm begging you to call the DeKalb County Medical Examiner's Office at 404-508-3500. And if you want to remain anonymous, call NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, at 1-800-THE-LOST. That's 1-800-843-5678. And more cowbell.
And if you'd like to support the podcast, go to patreon.com/Just the Tip-Sters.